and welcome to the Hall Preezy universe. I'm King HP, otherwise known as Father, and this is the Wandavision episode 4 review breakdown. I do want to start to say spoiler warnings, regardless of what the titles are to these videos. So if you have not seen the videos or you are looking forward to watching them before watching the reviews, please do. I do not want to give anything away. But with that being said, spoiler warning, this is your chance. You can leave. All right, let's get into it. So, episode 4, major change of tempo from the first 3 episodes. Episode 4 starts off with no intro. No WandaVision 50s, 60s, 70s intro. So, that was your first indicator that this episode is not an episode that we're going to see from the WandaVision, Wanda's point of view, Wanda's manipulation, okay? And where does it pick up from? It picks up from Bruce. Now, different perspective. Endgame, Avengers 1, yeah. This is a little different. This picks up Monica Rambeau is in the hospital.
Lieutenant Trouble.
Same place she was 5 years ago, along with everyone else. So as she's going through the hospital, she even bumps into a person, right, who's coming back from being dusted from my man's right here, right? But this is the Hulk snap, so this is one that brings everybody back. And what we kind of learned from this is, even though we see and we were so elated with joy and all these things when Endgame happened and the Hulk snap and brought everybody back, there was a bit of chaos. Possible tragedies, because people were brought back in the positions they were in when they left. So possibly, hey, if you was married and then your spouse disappeared, now you're remarried, your husband just popped up or your wife just popped up. Hey, if you were driving, you're put back in the street, essentially in that traffic. So, all types of chaoticness, along with the mixed feelings of joy and the returning loved ones who were in bits of safer areas, right? So Monica comes up in the hospital. She was dusted, and what happens is we learn that her mother has died. We're learning this as Monica is finding out. She bumps into the doctor who worked with her mother, and her mother passed from cancer 3 years before Monica comes back. So Monica is trying to process this. And what we learned from that is that now Monica was carrying on her legacy, because the next things we see is the S.W.O.R.D base, okay? And Monica Rambeau's mother, who we saw in Captain Marvel, was a major player, founder, because if you watch Captain Marvel, we see her with the Skrulls and Nick Fury. She was a major cornerstone, essentially, to the organization. So once we get all that information, a little side note was even mentioned with Monica about, I was asleep for 20 minutes. People who got dusted, this kind of goes back to the Spider-Man Endgame when he's talking to Tony. This just kind of confirms that. Even though in Infinity War he's like, I'm not feeling too good, there was really no pain associated to it. So maybe a feeling of throwing up or something like that, but no real pain. These people felt like they were asleep. So we're going to essentially move on from that. Monica comes back into work. New character, acting director, which, what's his role? We don't know, but Tyler Hayward, right? Now, this is the person that Monica says director, he says acting director. And what he's basically implying is, if this might have been your job, your mom was the cornerstone, you were the one that was set up shop for the next person, it's the turnover, right? But you disappeared, right? So they had to pick somebody, and I was the next guy. So keep an eye on him, because we don't know what his motives are, right? We learned that S.H.I.E.L.D., everybody wasn't who we thought they were. He says, man, you're the first one to show up 3 weeks later. So that gives us the timeline. So now there's this missing persons report, and he's catching Monica up to speed. Nothing big here, but there's a missing persons report the FBI wanted their help with, right? So that, a little odd, right? Because when you think about S.W.O.R.D, sentient weapon, observation response department, right? What would a missing person have to do with this? So Monica gets put on the case, and we meet Agent Wu again, right? So Agent Wu is a returning character, right? And with Agent Wu, he basically starts to question what's going on. But what I want you to focus on is what he says. This missing persons case, when he was trying to follow up, the relatives of the missing person, right, which would be like if I went missing and you call my mother or you call my brother, they never heard of me, right? They didn't know I've ever, like, who? Nobody by that name. So that's strange. We're not sitting here playing the person that was put in protective custody because that was what it was. We're not trying to push that away or make it seem like something it's not. These people have no knowledge of the person. So he goes to investigate, leaves Oakland, goes to New Jersey. And when he gets to Westview, right, he runs into some police officers where he wants a little bit of help, and it gets stranger. And that's where he's informing Monica, who now they want to do some surveillance, right? Observation, right? That's part of what S.W.O.R.D does. So the police officers are no help. They say they're from Eastview as they're in front of a sign for Westview. Now, little things. Question how powerful now is Wanda, right? And I want that to be important from the first times we saw her when Pietro died and she used her powers in a major way and she took out a bunch of Ultron robots, to now she's essentially got a town missing, right? Because the police officers that work there are outside of the town, literally having the conversation with S.W.O.R.D agents, Monica and Agent Wu. And they're under hypnosis, I guess, or they're glitched. I don't know how you want to call it, right? So they send in the drone, right? They are specific to show you the drone because the drone was already shown to you in episode 1. So this is where episode 4 gets. Episode 4 is like an in-depth look at episodes 1, 2, and 3 from different perspectives. It explains the slow pace, what they're seeing, because what episode 4 does, it now shows us what S.W.O.R.D was doing, and we find out everybody who's been involved with the show thus far has been S.W.O.R.D agents, right? So when they notice this drone that they have disappear, that just draws the attention of Agent Wu and Monica. And Monica goes up, she touches it. Agent Wu is like, yeah, be careful, Monica, Captain Rambeau. And guess what? She gets sucked inside. Now that's interesting because when the line of questioning came from Monica, Agent Wu, he ain't want no part of it. He said it doesn't want me to go in. When she had asked him about why didn't you just go in? Like, why didn't you go in? Like, that's, police type of checklist, right, of things to do. Investigate. Like, you got to interview people, see what's going on. But he said that, and now here it is, Monica's being sucked in. Now, we don't know. She did say it was an energy field, but she disappeared without a trace, right? So the question we're going to focus on is how powerful is Wanda now? Because what you're seeing is we're assuming this is Wanda's field, this magnetic or energetic field. And what I want you to keep in mind is this is 3 weeks after the Hulk snap, 3 weeks after Endgame. Wanda has never dealt or processed with the death of Vision. Vision was killed twice in front of her, right? She had to do it. She had to break the stone, right? Destroy the stone to stop him right here, right? That didn't work because he had a stone, time stone, rewound time, brought him back, and did it again. And this time it changed everything. So 3 weeks after this is when all this stuff has kicked off. And when I mean kicked off, it could have been an effect all the way up to, and we're just now seeing how it works out. So S.W.O.R.D, they make some phone calls. And one of the people we now meet, we get reintroduced to is Darcy. Darcy's from Thor. Darcy's in astrophysics. She's in a van with three other people, and you got a nuclear biologist, right? That's the woman. You got the artificial intelligence guy, and he's bald. And then you got the guy who's referred to as the Boy Scout leader, right? And he's the chemical engineer. So they're basically, S.W.O.R.D is calling in all assets that they can get their hands on because they're trying to figure out what's going on and what the threat is. And Darcy is hip to that. She's like, you guys don't know what you guys are doing. She sees them shooting up a drone. Hey, what kind of surveillance are you getting? That's classified. None of your business. Oh, you guys aren't even getting anything, right? She immediately is hip to what's going on, right? She's been on this road with Thor. So Darcy is talking to one of the agents, and I love Marvel. Thank Marvel for doing this. Marvel tells stories sometimes by interjecting real life, science, or customs and traditions or folklore into their story, so it can tell a story or it can paint a picture without Marvel having to do all the sciencey stuff for you. So what am I referring to? The CMBR, okay? That is the cosmic microwave background radiation. This is actually a real thing in science, right? This is literally what scientists feel was caused by the Big Bang. And they put it in here. Now, why is that important? Well, if we go back to how the Collector explained the stones in Guardians, and we go back to how Tony was discussing the stones with Wong when he was learning of them, it all goes back to the Big Bang, right? So they actually use this is brilliant. If you don't know, CMBR, cosmic microwave background radiation, look it up. It's a good little read. But now you see what they're dealing with and where the stones come from. Wanda gets her. We're gonna let them tell that story. So we see them dressing up people in hazmat suits, right? Because now we know there is a radiation. We know it's a high level, right? Because Marvel does a great job of showing us that by having Darcy look in her mirror. Whoa. No, it wasn't. This is a colossal amount. So we know there is a high amount. So they're doing all their safety precautions and their checks, and they send some guys in, right? Agent Franklin. They use him by name, right? They say, Agent Franklin, we're gonna keep the line open so you can keep comms with us. And Agent Franklin, right? Now remember him, because I don't know if the show forgot about him, but knowing Marvel, we're gonna see him reappear somewhere, or he'll get referenced later, and it'll be a thing, right? So what am I talking about? This guy in a hazmat suit, he goes in the sewer, right? They don't know how far this energy field stretches or whatever, so they want to go subterranean to a degree, right? Go through the sewer, come up in there, and then we can see what's going on, right? We can get some real surveillance, because the drones are yielding it nothing, okay? And then what happens with that is once he goes, we notice all Sword is back there. Darcy and Agent W.O.R.D watching, and now they see Wanda and Vision, and they recognize him. Now this is key, right? Because sure, you recognize Wanda, right? Because Wanda was in the events of Civil War. She was a fugitive. Just through that, the events of Infinity War, when Vision was attacked.
I have to go.
No, Vision, if that's true, then maybe going isn't the best idea.
Wanda.
Darcy and Agent Wu recognize Vision in his human form. I bring that up to say that might be how they recognized him. So don't trip off that. But there are some things to trip about. They said Vision is dead. Not blipped, but dead. Now, if you say that, I have to wonder, how do you know? I have to ask, how do you know? Because the body was in Wakanda. And we know how Wakandans are with letting people in and giving out the resources. Well, what do you mean, the resources? Remember the story of Vision's creation in MCU. Vibranium was involved, so he has a part of him that is also vibranium, as well as synthesis. Like he's multiple things, but where is his body, right? And we'll get to that later, or where we think it could be later, right? So next things we see Sword's camp set up, and we see this huge energy field with it almost looks like baseball, like to the baseball field, but you see this tint contrast, like old TV squiggly line that just lets you know how far Wanda's power is, or whoever's controlling this field, right? They have a whole city under siege. Okay, now with this being said, they start going into this CSI detective style. They're like, hey, this started off as a missing persons case. We're gonna do that first. So we're gonna identify and start with the people we know, and we'll move out branch style, right? And they do it with Wanda and Vision starting, and then they start filling in the dots. as they're watching and people have speaking roles, they identify them, right? And they use this dry erase board posted with the driver's license. They're getting people. Boom. They're, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Hart. Notice the pictures, right? Everyone has a first and last name. Everyone has a driver's license. There's one person who does not. One person who does not. That person is Agnes. Agnes still does not have a last name, yet they have the Shield file. Okay, well, Dottie's not up there either. Keep in mind, as this is unfolding, we're about to see Agnes for the first time in relationship to how these episodes are playing out. So Dottie has not been shown yet, so there wouldn't be a post of Dottie with a driver's license on the board, and that whole thing. So keep that in mind, right? But Marvel does something great in the same time this is happening. They show Agent Wu. He's got his drawing board up there, dry erase board. He's got a bunch of questions, right? And his questions essentially line up with what we as fans think, right? And it's asking, what's up with the hexagons? Is Vision alive? That's the last thing he's writing on that board, right? Time and space, meaning are these 50 shows something that was pre-shot? Is it in a different universe? Time and space, is it happening right now in the same world that we are in? Or is it, they don't know. They're trying to come up with the answers. And these are very common questions that we have. Why sitcoms? They are literally asking the questions we are. So expect Marvel to start answering these questions very soon, very shortly, possibly in episode 5. But I feel like a little bit of unveiling will be done episode by episode, right? So one major thing to note. On the same board, it says who has done this or who is behind this. Skrulls. So we know Secret Invasion is coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Actually, it'll be on the Disney Plus show. So the fact that Marvel's throwing that in there, that they're aware, more people than just Nick Fury, Captain Marvel, right? More than what we saw in the Captain Marvel movie. So Skrulls are definitely picking up because they're aware enough to ask, are there Skrulls? It doesn't say Kree. It doesn't say, I don't know. It could have said anything up there. It could have said Loki, Asgardians, right? Who knows? But keep that in mind. Marvel's got you in mind. They get a colorized picture of the drone, right? That lets them they get hyped. They're moving. But does Wanda have total control? And why is that colorized? If we sent something in, it stayed in a similar form. So that just brings a little bit of hope. Let me go back to Agent Franklin here. He's the sword agent. He's starting to pierce through this energy field. And he goes through. He's got his hazmat suit. But when he goes through, he comes out as a beekeeper. But that's Wanda's reality, right? So that's how they would just imagine him. So I don't think the beekeeper meant anything. I mean, it looked really good in episode 2, but it doesn't appear to really mean much. But here's what does. He's on a cable. They got an attachment to him, right? Because they don't want to lose him. And what happens is it gets cut going through this reality, right? It gets severed. And it turns into a jump rope, right? I mean, he's walking off. But they're able to pull that cable back. And when they pull it out, they still have a jump rope. And he's looking at it like, what the heck is this? Like, why is this a jump rope? This is like super huge. Because now we know Vision is alive inside of this world. We know he has a Mind Stone intact inside this world. And we know there are now 2 children inside this world. Are they going to be able to grow out the way the jump rope did? Right? Because the jump rope was in that reality. It got cut. It should have came back out as a cable. They should have looked at it. Oh, man, something happened, right? No. They're like, what is going on with that? Right? So there's all that. So these are questions that need to be answered. But Marvel does a great job in the end of this episode, and we'll go back to that as we get there with Monica Rambeau and why there's more evidence to support what happens in Wanda's world can happen on the outside of Wanda's world if it's taken out there. So hope for the Infinity Stones coming back, possibly. 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, who knows? We'll see. But then we see Agent Franklin and Wanda, and when the Agent Franklin sees them, he says no, right? Wanda says no, I'm sorry. This is what was important earlier that I want to get to now. Wanda rewound time. Go back and rewatch the episode 2 review that when Wanda rewinds time, Vision is not aware of it seemingly because he doesn't re-ask what he was just asking or say what he was just saying. So it lets you kind of, okay, he doesn't remember that. What happened to Agent Franklin? Dude. Okay, they don't talk. So they don't know. He don't know. He's still dusted. But at the Agent Franklin gets time around on him, and nobody brings him up. That's why I say keep that in mind. Maybe he pops up later as another character. Maybe he pops up as a reference. Maybe we don't know. Marvel doesn't seem to forget. They let you forget, and then when they bring it back, so just keep in mind, Agent Franklin, that was the guy who was in the bee suit when she, right? Where'd he go? He didn't. We'll get back to that later on a different episode. Hopefully in the future they get that answered. So as we're seeing this, they had the twins, and man, Wanda's inside the house with Monica, and at this time, Vision's outside with Agnes. Now, Darcy and Agent Wu are watching this, and this is where Monica makes the reference to Ultron in episode 3. This is where Wanda snaps, right? Now, we knew something happened because we heard the music shift, right? We heard the music shift. We also knew that Vision was outside talking to Agnes, and Agnes was even saying, no home, right? And we knew Wanda did something with Geraldine. We just didn't know what, but it ended up having her on the outside of the bubble. But now we see it, right? Now we see it. How did you know about Ultron? You're not my friend. Wanda, you're not my friend. You're not a neighbor. You are trespassing. Wanda is hyped, okay? Wanda's on, if you ever see Menace to Society, she's on her old dog. What you say about my mama? And we all know how that went, right? So, boom, Monica gets shoved through that reality back into the real one, through the walls, through the fence, 1,000 miles an hour, literally. And Wanda, because she had to use her powers, I don't know if she's fatigued. I don't know if she's just mentally, because remember, she was just bringing up PH. I was a twin, right? So she's in a good place, even though she just thought about Pietro a little bit. She's in a good place. Monica brought up Ultron, and it, right, pushed her out, and Vision is now coming back in from Agnes. Vision's coming in. Wanda, what happened to Geraldine? She had to go. She had to go home, right? Remember that, right? Well, we see that. We saw a cutscene. S.W.O.R.D is watching this. They see the cutscene.
What? What is it? What's wrong?
Vision is busted to the white meat. Okay? All this. Vision is sitting in front of Wanda looking the same way Debo looked after he got busted in his head with the brick from Craig. No difference. Vision is pale, completely ashy, eyes rolled back in his head, Undertaker style. They don't even roll back in his head. There's no color to Vision. The same Infinity War Vision, right? After the stone was removed, that's him. In the exact same. But he's talking, he's walking. What? He doesn't even know it. He don't even know it. And Wanda can't even bear to look at it. She has to fix it. She fixes it real quick. Does something, because when she looks back up, he's normal. He's colorized, right? So Vision comes in, and he's got this line. And it might have just went over heads. It might not have really seemed like much. But it's one of the most important lines in all four episodes so far. And the line is,
We don't have to stay here. We could go wherever we want.
No, we can't. This is our home.
that right there lets you know this is not good. Wanda is now set up. Before your eyes, Wanda has now become an anti-villain. Right? We always talk about Deadpool and Wolverine and all these characters being anti-heroes. Well, wouldn't this make Wanda the anti-villain? Because she's not trying to be bad. She's grieving with the death of her love, the love of her life, essentially. Remember, she was in cages before. We saw her in the end credit scene with her brother one time. He was moving, right? And Wanda was up there playing with the Legos. So we don't know how much history is really there. We also know the sad thing about the bomb, her parents being killed, the missile saying Stark. We made it 2 days for Stark to kill us, right? So Wanda's had a sad life. So losing the love of her life, that might have pushed her over. But does that make her bad? I mean, something's going on. And every time something doesn't go her way, she rewinds time. Now we know what the properties of rewinding time are. Endgame explained it. You're creating other realities. Every time you do it. Who's affected? Does real reality get reflected? Like, when you do, this is not good, right? So, Vision, he has that confused look on his face, and then he just seems like he's like, why is that? Why you got a confused look? I'll tell you why. Agnes said Geraldine has no home. No husband, no family to speak, no home. She was in the house with Wanda. Agnes brought it up, so now Vision's concerned. He comes back in. She had to go. She had to go home. Remember, Vision is the same guy who saw Mr. Hart choke. That wasn't rewound, right? And he brings it up one time, and then she rewinds time on him. He also is the same guy that saw Herb out there tripping. Herb was cutting into the wall. But that might have been symbolic of Herb cutting into the wall because he was trying to find a way out. Oh, seems I am. Thanks, buddy. I'm gonna dress up as Herb for Halloween. Okay, but let's talk about some things that are coming. Episode 5 is Friday. Tune in. Definitely catch this review. We're going to be breaking these down a little bit earlier, a little bit faster to get them out, so we have things to ponder through the week. But know this, right? With what we've seen now, and what we do know with Doctor Strange 2 coming, Spider-Verse being a multiverse movie, this is the legs to set this all up. Okay, so pay attention to the characters they introduce us to, especially if they have speaking roles. Just like how in Wanda, when they notice that people have speaking roles, they're finding out they're real people. So these things are coming, right? So definitely pay attention to those things and understand this. We kind of have our questions answered. Vision, he's dead. We saw him with his head busted to the white meat, right? That was the Debo Brick. Sell that Funko Pop, Debo Brick Vision, right? So, but what's going to happen in the next episode? We got to tune in. Vision's going to eventually try to get out. Wanda's going to have to eventually talk to him. Sora's going to figure this thing out. What is Monica going to offer them? Was she playing the role as being a character? Or did she know what was going on the whole time and was waiting for her chance to, slide something in there, which slid her right on out of there, right? So we'll get these questions answered as we go into episode 5, episode 6. And I look forward to the breakdowns and the reviews. Please stick with me. Make sure that if you like the video, you click the like button, click subscribe, and make sure you have the notifications turned on so when we drop new content, you're getting it, because we have a lot more things coming. The stop motion is a little bit slower than we thought, right? A little bit slower, but that's still coming. We got some DC content coming too as well. And then we'll have a series of trailers coming out as movies getting announced, as well as some Spider-Man 3 updates for you as well. And the DC Snyder Cut thing that's coming. So there's a lot more stuff coming. So please click the notification. As always, stay safe. It's King HP. Thank you for watching and tuning into the Hall Prison universe. Until next time, we'll see you later.